So you've got one of the rare matchup differences with Jake Briningstool. He could probably really have an impact, standout year. How possible is it for him to have something like 500 yards, 8 touchdowns, 50 yards on average? Like, what's the goal for him this year in terms of that?
Yeah, that's a good question. From a standpoint of stats, we don't get into stats. That doesn't make or break your success as an individual, and it doesn't make or break the success of the team. So everything that we do in the tight end room is based off of team first and me second. So we don't, to say he's going to have that type of year from a stat deal, that's nothing that's ever talked about or really a concern of mine, and it doesn't need to be a concern of his either, and it's not. So, but he's going to have, in my opinion, he's had an unbelievable offseason. He had a great year last year. He's had a great offseason. He's taken his nutrition to another level, which he needed to. He's done that every year he's been here, which has really helped him on the field. He understands he's going into year 2 of the offense for him. So he's just, you could just see in the spring mentally, he had another, he was just in another gear mentally with the offense, which again will help him play fast. So I'm looking forward to seeing all his hard work pay off in this last year for him, and I think he's going to have a great year.
Year 2 of the offense, what did you learn from year 1?
I think I knew that question was coming. I think in anything that you do, not just football, in anything that you do, just like all y'all's jobs, y'all probably felt a whole lot more comfortable in year 2 of your job or your new position than you did in year 1. I was just thinking back on it this morning, when I was a position coach and went to become an offensive coordinator. Year 2 and year 1 felt totally different to me. And then as I went from an offensive coordinator to a head coach, I'm drowning in year 1, and in year 2 I feel like I'm floating a little bit. So I think from a standpoint of the offensive coaches, this was not really year 2 for me in this system. This was like year 16 for me in this system. But for the rest of the staff, as they went and we've gone into spring, you can just see that they feel a lot more comfortable in year 2, quote unquote, year 2 of the system for them. And then for the tweaks that Garrett brought that I was not a part of in the past, I'm more comfortable with them. And then all that trickles down to your offensive players. And I just saw this spring, we just felt like we played faster, and we don't have a slow team. So if you're playing faster and you see that, it's because mentally it's slowed down for them. And now they're not bogged down in the details, because those details they've kind of figured out going into year 2. So I think you're going to see, we're going to take steps just like you would in any profession, hopefully, if you've put the work in to do that, and this group has.
Jake Briningstool is obviously the headliner of this tournament.
Yep.
What are you excited about for fans to see just develop and grow this year?
Yeah, it's just speaking on the tight end group, it's a very talented room. I'd say from top to bottom, they all bring something different to the table, and the talent's there. Besides Brenny, it's a very inexperienced room. With the young guys, everybody's really a young guy in the room. And not only young as in what's beside their name, whether it's a freshman, redshirt, sophomore, you're talking just young from reps in games. There at the end of the year, due to injury, we played some more guys at the end that didn't play as much at the beginning of the year, and that was good for them to get that experience. But playing 30, 40 snaps a game versus playing 5 snaps a game, that's a big difference. So the rest of the room's got to take the next step in, not only gaining experience on the field, but understanding how to go and meet in the meeting room when you are expected to play 20, 30 snaps or be the next guy on the field when an injury happens. So I'm really happy with where the group, how the group came out of spring. You kind of had a Sapp and Olsen were kind of the number 2 battling at number 2 coming out of spring, and they've had a great summer. Marcus made leaps and bounds from fall to spring, and really excited about where he's at. And then obviously you got Christian coming in the building now. Haven't had any time to spend with him on the field, but really excited about having him. And then you got a guy like Banks Pope, who played probably more snaps at the end of the year than Sapp and Olsen played because of what his strength is, which he's a bigger tight end, a physical tight end, plays a lot in the box. So you were talking short yardage and goal line and stuff like that. You saw him take on some more snaps at the end of the year, and he had a great spring and kind of what his role is. So really excited about the room, but they're all different and they're all unique, and that's what I really like about the room, and that's how I recruit. I don't want the room to all look the same. I want to be able to mix and match guys in certain personnel packages, and I want to be able to mix and match you based off your strengths versus the defense. So that's why the room kind of looks the way it is, and that's how every year I go into recruiting. All right, what do we want to put in the room this year? All right, as we move forward in the future. So really excited about the room.
Coach, how does that inexperience that you talk about impact the scheme?
You know, it really doesn't. We are who we are, and we're going to, we're going to run what we run. And if we need to mix and match the personnel, whether it's an extra wide receiver on the field or whether it's an extra, running back on the field based off experience, then that's what we'll do. And we have the opportunity to do all that within this system. But you kind of saw, again, last year, you had, 2 running backs in Shipley and Maffa, and at times we wanted to get them on the field at the same time. We had some injuries in the wide receiver room, and when Sage was here, you had Brenny and Sage that were 2 experienced dudes, so you saw more of probably them on the field at the same time. So we'll just see how, every week's a different week, how we mix and match the personnel based off of what is our situation from an injury standpoint, an experience standpoint, or just maybe schematically for that week what we're trying to do. And then number 2, where's our matchup issues that we can create versus the defense? Now, how do we have to personnel that out?
Whether real or perceived, one of the knocks on this offense has been a lack of explosive passing. How do you, as a passing game coordinator, put these guys in the best position to hit on some of those big plays?
Yeah. I think some of that is just, some of that last year was just, there was a lot of factors that went into that. Turnovers were obviously a big factor. And then just kind of injury bug that kind of came, and Cade being first-year quarterback. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that goes into that. But even with that, if you go back and you look at big play percentage, we had a higher big play percentage last year than we did the year before. So again, that's kind of, like you said, perception kind of turns into reality, but that's why we don't live in a perception world as coaches. When the season's over, we actually take, the data, and we look at it and go, all right, where did we fall? Where did we get better? Where do we need to improve? Whatever. So big play did go up. Does it need to go up more? Yeah, obviously it does. But we were better than we were the year before. I think our personnel, another year of experience with our personnel is going to lead to more big plays. We got to take care of the football, which would have led to more big plays last year, which obviously would have led to more wins last year, just being honest. So everybody's got to do their part in it. It just doesn't fall on the quarterback or fall on the receivers or vice versa. So everybody's got to do their part, but I think you're going to see, and coming out of the spring, and that's what we were just talking on the radio about, I can't remember another spring that I've been here, and I'm going on year 9. I can't remember another spring where we had more explosive plays and big plays than we had this spring. So that was a positive, and that's something that we challenged the group going into the spring, and they responded to. Just from a tight end standpoint, my biggest challenge with the tight end group was yards after the catch. So when I went and broke down the data and I looked at what we were doing as just a position group, man, we were having big catches. We weren't getting any yards after the catch. We were making the 30-yard catch, and then we're getting tackled by the first guy that touches us or whatever. So what I challenged them was, hey, yards after catch. Well, I got to put that on me too. So what I did in all season is, how can I create some drills or go take some drill work from somebody else that will help us get yards after the catch as tight ends? So they have to see that I'm doing the same thing that I'm asking them to do, which is challenging myself. How can we get better? How can I get better? Now let's all get better. And that's kind of what we did as an offensive staff in regards to big plays. And then just in the room, hey, if we can get more yards after the catch as tight ends, guess what? We have more big plays. And then we've done our part. So that's kind of where we are on that.
With JB, our opinion doesn't matter, but he just seems like someone who could really pop a lid off this thing in this next year. With his unique size and frame, is there something in his game that, whether it be getting out of his stance quicker, coming back on curl routes quicker, like you said, maybe stability, with more yak, but something that can take his game from really good to really great?
Yeah. Where are you from? What's your name?
ABC Northern.
Okay. All right. Nice to meet you. I hadn't seen you around, so. All right. Nice to meet you. Your opinion matters around here, by the way.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's yak. It's yards after catch for him. It's yards after catch for all the dudes in the room, to be honest with you. And that's where he's going to go from good to great if he can have more explosive plays when the ball's in his hands. And what he understands and what the whole room understands is, I'm not just happy with a catch. I'm not just happy with a catch. I can go out and recruit a ton of dudes that can just catch. Right? I need playmakers. I recruited you, I brought you here, and I'm talking to the room. I recruited you, I brought you here, not because you can just catch. That was like a prerequisite, right? Now, I brought you here because you're a playmaker, you're dynamic, you did things that made you stand out from other people. Now you got to go do that at this level, all right? So that's a challenge for the whole room. But for him, for Brenny, good to great looks like that, more explosive plays with yards after catch. Good to great for him is improving his in-the-box run game, all right? Because a lot of people want to get caught up, and he understands that. A lot of people want to get caught up because they only see 2 or 3 tight ends in the NFL. That's all they pay attention to, and they just pay attention to how much they catch, all right? But there's 4 to 5 tight ends on 32 teams, right? And I got a history degree, I ain't got a math degree, so I don't know what that is. That's what, 130, 40 dudes, tight ends, right? And we only keep up with the top 3 or 4 that get paid the most money, and all they do is go catch, all right? But the majority of those dudes, how are they making their living? Blocking, catching, being an all-around tight end, special teams. So that's where he can take his game to another level too, is don't just be a pass-catching tight end, because at the next level, you got to do it all, right? And some of those guys that you pay attention at the next level, they're near the end of their career. But if you look back at the beginning of their career, they were all-around tight ends that developed into an older pass-catching tight end. So I think that's the thing for him. And like I said, everything that I get, and this is what I love about number 9. Everything that I give him, that I challenge him on, that I tell him, hey, you need to get better at this, and here's why. He wants to know why, and I love that, right? Here's why. Here's where you want to go. Here's what you're thinking. Let me help you, okay? But what he takes is, he takes coaching. And he takes it and he goes and he tries to do it. So like every fall and spring and summer, hey, we need to do this. We need to improve on this. Here's why. And then you turn around and he's taking steps toward that. So run game was big for him this spring, and he took steps into that. So we'll see if it parlays into fall camp that he's doing the exact same thing.
How does Josh Sapp's versatility as a football player help all the other tight ends?
Yeah, Sapp's different. Sapp's he played 1,000 different positions in high school. He's super athletic. He's really long, and people don't, you don't think that about him, because when you're looking at him, you go, man, he's a short tight end. But he's really long because he doesn't play like a short tight end. So what he brings to the table is he's dynamic. He's a mismatch in the slot. He's one of those dudes where you're still in 12 personnel if you got 2 on the field, and he's one of them. But he's almost like a receiver while he's on the field. Now, again, I go back to what I just said with Brenny. He can't just go out there and be a pass-catching tight end either. Nobody in the room can do that. Right? Everybody in the room has got to be groomed and developed to be all-around tight end that can do it all. Pass protection, run game, and pass game. And when you become that, then you're going to see your reps go up. So that's my challenge with the entire room. And Sapp's done a great job on his body. He was a little he had his freshman 15 before he came as a freshman. I kid around with him on. He's done a great job with his body. He works his tail off. And what's happened in the room is the competition has really made everybody step their game up. Okay, so everybody wants to talk about Brenny. Love Brenny, and that's great. But he's the experienced old head in the room, right? But as he's still, I tell him all the time, you may not have competition in the room as the old head, but my foot up your tail is your competition, okay? Now the rest of the guys, what are they doing? They're chasing this guy, right? While they're all competing for playing time, and all that's doing is just making them better. And you don't have days off because you're looking around and you're going, man, there's my competition right there. And then I also remind them all the time, hey, I go out recruiting for a reason, to bring dudes in the room. And really what I'm trying to do, my challenge is bring a better guy in that I brought the year before. So again, that's not a knock on the guy that I brought in the year before, but I'm trying to make them understand, hey, when y'all all want to go to the next level, and they got a whole personnel department that never coaches football. All they do is look to bring people in the room that are better than you, right? And save money while they're doing it. So that's another piece of it too. Like, if you guys want to go do this, then I got to help you understand that part of the business too. So I'm really excited about the room. I just think it's these guys are just fun to be around, but they're really good. They're really good football players, really good people, and really good football players, and I'm ready to see them take that next step. And I'm ready to see Brenny take the next step too, even though he's not kind of in the thick of those guys right now.
You mentioned recruiting Christian, your freshman. How is he acclimating with the rest of the guys?
He's been here a few weeks, and that's kind of there's a lot of positives to the summer. The negative to the summer is you bring a guy in who comes in the summer and you don't really get to do anything with him. So the strength staff has been with him full time, but he's done a good job of acclimating to college so far, taking a little summer school, and then obviously being in the weight room. But starting this week, we can kind of, now that we're back in the building, we'll start doing a little bit of football meeting stuff with him. So I'm interested to see how he starts taking those meetings, and then we'll have some walkthroughs and stuff kind of leading up to fall camp. But it's always, there's a physical side to being a freshman, but the mental side is usually bigger for some guys than the physical side. Like if you look at Christian, you're like, man, that dude looks like he can play right now. Well, that's just one piece of it, I got to see how he takes the mental. I got to see in the middle of fall camp when you're in day 15, 16, and they're piling up on you, how you respond to that, physically and mentally. But I'm really excited about having him in the room, and it's been a long time recruiting that dude, and a lot of trips to Chicago, a lot of wind, and a lot of snow. So I'm really glad he's here, and I'm not chasing him in Chicago anymore.
You mentioned before talking about player rotation as well as the development of these offenses and coming into fall camp.
Yeah.
What's the rotation going to look like behind
Coming out of spring, Sapp and Olsen was kind of that number two, and they did a great job in the spring at competing. And they've done a great job so far from what I've heard in the summer competing. So I would say going into fall camp, obviously you got 9 as the top guy. Sapp and Olsen will be right there at number 2, and Marcus is right there chomping at them, and then Christian's got to get in. And then, like I said, it's different in the tight end room because when you start playing multiple tight ends, based off what the play is and what you're trying to get out of the play from a personnel standpoint, there's really no 2s and 3s and 4s. I mean, like I said, last year there was at times that, obviously Brenny was the 1, but there was at times that maybe Sapp and Olsen was taking those number 2 reps, and then you turn around and all of a sudden Banks Pope is out there taking the number 2 reps based off the personnel in the play. So I'm not going to get into who's 2, 3, 4, and 5. Whoever can get the job done on that play, they're going to be in the game. And they're going to be in the practice to get that opportunity. So I would say right now, from a pecking order standpoint, we obviously know what Brenny brings to the table, and then from there, all of them are competing for playing time. Whether it's 1 tight end on the field, 2 tight ends on the field, or 3 tight ends on the field, everybody's got to compete to get those reps.
I know you talked about just with Christian just starting to go back and get that work in the field, Josh Sapp. Do you expect him to kind of see Jake Briningstool competition for those spots behind?
Yeah, I mean, all the guys are in competition. So, around here, we talk about it all the time. You got to earn it, all right? he hasn't earned it because he was a highly recruited guy. You know, he's got to come in and do his work. Now, at the same time, I'm not going to hold him back if he earns it and he's the best player on the field. And that goes for anybody in the room. All right? They're all competing. And we've had plenty of, I won't use any names, but we've had plenty of past history of 5-star, you know, sophomore, juniors in the room getting beat out by a true freshman that you're thinking you're going to redshirt. Right? And so that happens across the board, and it happens at all programs. So we're no different here. Now, if it's a tie, you're going to go to the older guy who's put in a little bit more work. But if it's not a tie, you're going to play the best guy. Again, for that play and what we're trying to get done, you're going to play the best guy.
Kyle, with the finish you guys had,
Yep.
that usually, you know how that can carry a lot of momentum in the offseason. Have you seen the positives these guys build on what they did
Yeah.
in that last half of the season,
Yeah.
and the understanding that, hey, you know, we left some things on the table early,
Yep.
and we can be better than that, and we have to be better than that going forward?
Yeah, I think, you know, obviously getting started the way we started, you know, it takes so much out of you from a confidence standpoint. You know, you go into fall camp and you got a new offense and you're feeling really good and you're confident, and then all of a sudden, I mean, you lose that opener. And not only do you lose the opener, you lose it the way you lost it. So at that point, you kind of get in a struggle of are we who we are? You know, these are still kids, you know, and they still listen. Even though we try to get them not to listen to what's outside the building, they're still listening and seeing. So we're trying our hardest here to counter that message. But you still gotta go win football games, and it's a whole lot easier to counter the message when you're winning football games. So as we went into that struggle, and it kind of went up and down, and you know, there might have been some of them believing, hey, we might be what they're telling us we are outside these four walls. But then all of a sudden, it's like a spark, and we got a spark, and you beat a team like Notre Dame, right? And you look at your schedule, and really when you look at your schedule, like, oh my gosh, like, we're struggling. These guys are not as confident as they need to be. We've got some injuries on top of that. We got a ball security issue that, you know, we work every day on ball security, but it just was what it was, you know. But at the same time, like, we had some problems. But then all of a sudden you look at the schedule and you're like, oh my gosh, like, we're in trouble. We could be in trouble. But again, we sparked it. And then all of a sudden you just started building off of it. And then the best, you know, I know, you know, I would love to have blowouts for everything, every game that we play, but getting into that Kentucky game and finishing the way we finished and not quitting and not losing our confidence. I think that did more than anything at any part of the season for us. Going into this all season, because there's just we always believe around here, but you know, they saw it even more from a confidence standpoint. There was a confidence belief, not just believing we can do it. They had confidence in believing we were going to go do it, and they did it. So we saw that going into the spring. I feel like we were more confident in the spring. I feel like things slowed down mentally for a lot of the guys because they're in year two. And all of a sudden, like it's like I said before, bigger plays start happening, more explosives start happening, more fun. You know, they're having more fun in this offense. So we'll see. We got to work out. Hey, again, you know, you open up the way we open up, and we'll have a work cut out for us. But at the end of the day, this season's not going to be, you know, we're not going to make or break this season based off of week one. Just like our season was, we didn't make or break our season based off of losing to Duke in week one. So it'll be fun to have that carrot dangling all through fall camp, knowing that is week one game.
What did you see from Josh Sapp as the season progressed? And how do you feel like he can take another step to help his team win football?
You know, Sapp had a good transition from year one to year two for him. You know, the biggest thing is he kind of worked on his body, and he got, you know, he's quicker, he's faster, those type of things. But, you know, he's still, when you look back at it last year, you know, it was still Brenny and Sage kind of taking those, you know, that 1 and 2, and then Sapp and Olsen was kind of mixed in behind there. So they weren't taking, Sapp or Olsen wasn't taking a lot of snaps for the most part until Sage went down. So, but both those guys just stayed. They stayed consistent. They stayed preparing. They stayed hungry. They stayed working. And then when they got their opportunity, they went out there and did some good things. But for both of them, if they want to take that next step, they've got to improve. Like I said earlier, they got to improve in the all-round, being an all-round tight end. It can't just be, Sapp can't just be a pass-catching tight end. He's got to go be able to do it all, right? For him to be able to play the way he wants to play.
Does Jake have the skill set to be one of the greatest tight ends that's ever come through here? Do you feel like is he on that track?
Yeah, I mean he's different. He's different. God gifted him with size and talent. He's smart, and he wants to. He wants to, and that's a big piece of it too. Whether he's the greatest tight end that's ever come out of Clemson, we don't get into those talks and comparisons. Whatever he needs to drive himself, inner motivation, hey, go for it. But at the end of the day, that dude wants to win, and I want to win, and that's what we base everything off of. How can we, as a tight end group, and you individually in the tight end room, and me as a tight end coach, what can we do to make this offense better? If this offense is better, this team's better. If this team's better, we're going to win games, and everybody's going to be happy. All right? And then we'll let everybody else outside the building make all those comparisons, because there's been some great ones come through here, some really, really good ones. And I think if I'm speaking for Brenny, I think Brenny wants to walk out of here like Leggett did. He wants to walk out of here as a national champion. And if you put that on, if you ask him the question, he would probably say that because he's motivated by wanting to be just like Leggett was. Leggett was a big-time playmaker, unique, dynamic, right? And what he did his senior year, his last year here, was phenomenal. And it set him up to be able to have those kind of conversations. I think that's the way Brittany wants to set himself up. We're good? Everybody good? All right, thank y'all. Appreciate it.